Think about this for a moment. What if I told you that the largest carnivorous mammal that ever lived on Earth wasn't a bear, wasn't a cat, not even a dog? What if this creature had a giant wolf head, was as big as a bus, and could crush almost anything with its massive jaws? Today, we're diving into the story of Andrewsarchus, one of the most mysterious and terrifying predators in history. And yes, if this colossal creature were alive today, our world would be nothing like you'd imagine. Andrewsarchus mongoliensis. This name might sound unfamiliar to most of you. Unlike dinosaurs, Andrewsarchus hasn't made it into popular culture. No movies have been made, no toys produced. But that doesn't mean it was insignificant. On the contrary, this creature is perhaps one of the most impressive and mysterious examples of mammalian evolution. Andrewsarchus fossils were first discovered in 1923 in Mongolia's Gobi Desert. An expedition team led by American paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews found a massive skull among the sands. This skull was so large that scientists initially thought it belonged to a dinosaur. However, detailed examinations revealed that this bone belonged to a carnivorous mammal that lived approximately 45 million years ago. During the Eocene epoch, the discovered skull was exactly 83 centimeters long. To put this in perspective, the skull of the Kodiak bear, the largest terrestrial carnivore living today, is only around 40 to 50 centimeters. So Andrewsarchus's head alone was nearly twice the size of a modern bear's. And remember, we only found the skull. The rest of the skeleton has never been discovered. This has forced scientists to speculate about the creature's true dimensions by looking at Andrewsarchus's closest relatives. Inferences have been made about its body structure. Genetic and morphological studies have shown that Andrewsarchus was actually a distant relative of modern dolphins, whales, and even hippopotamuses. Yes, you heard that right. This land monster was part of the same evolutionary tree as the giants swimming in today's oceans. However, Andrewsarchus stayed on land and adopted a carnivorous lifestyle. According to reconstructions made by scientists, Andrewsarchus's total length was between 3.5 to 4 meters, and its shoulder height reached approximately 1.8 meters. Its weight was estimated to be around 1,000 kilograms. These measurements made it the largest carnivorous terrestrial mammal ever to have lived. For comparison, modern polar bears averaged 700 kilograms, while Siberian tigers are around 300 kilograms. So what did this colossal creature look like? This is where things get interesting. Andrewsarchus probably had a long body, powerful legs, and that incredibly large head. In appearance, it stood somewhere between a bear and a giant wolf. But its most striking feature was undoubtedly that massive jaw. Examination of the skull showed that Andrewsarchus had an incredibly powerful bite force. Its teeth were sharp, conical, and served a crushing grinding function. Its front teeth were sharp for tearing meat, while its back molars were designed to break bones and process crushed meat pieces. This tooth structure shows that Andrewsarchus was both a fresh meat-eating predator and a scavenger death machine. The attachment points of the jaw muscles reveal that this creature's bite force was many times greater than that of modern big cats. Some estimates suggest Andrewsarchus's bite force was 3 to 4 times stronger than lions and tigers. Some paleontologists even claim this force could be compared to the bite force of modern crocodiles. The Eocene epoch was a critical period for our planet. About 20 million years after the extinction of dinosaurs, mammals began to rapidly diversify and grow. The climate was much warmer and more humid than today. The poles were ice-free and tropical forests covered almost the entire planet. Even Mongolia, contrary to its current desert appearance, had green plains, rivers, and extensive wetlands. During this period, the region where Andrewsarchus lived was filled with vast grasslands, dense forested areas, and shallow wetlands. This diverse ecosystem was home to countless herbivorous and carnivorous species. Andrewsarchus was at the very top of this ecosystem. The king of the hierarchy. Andrewsarchus's prey were probably the large herbivores of the period. Brontotheriums were rhinoceros-like giants with horn-like protrusions. Entelodonts were aggressive and large carnivorous pig-like creatures known as hell pigs. Primitive horse species, small antelopes, and early sheep-goat-like animals also belonged to this period. Andrewsarchus could see all of these animals as prey. However, we believe Andrewsarchus wasn't just an active predator, but also an opportunistic scavenger. Its giant jaw and powerful teeth were perfect for opening animal carcasses and extracting marrow from bones. This characteristic shows that Andrewsarchus was both a fierce hunter and a patient watcher. Like modern hyenas, it could eat the remains of animals killed by other predators, or even drive other predators away from their kills. We know very little about Andrewsarchus's social behaviors. The discovery of a single skull provides limited information about its lifestyle. However, we can make some guesses by looking at modern relatives and body structure. It was most likely a solitary hunter. Its massive size and energy needs would have made group living difficult. Finding enough prey to feed multiple Andrewsarchus in one area would have been quite challenging. Nevertheless, we think males and females came together during breeding season. Females probably raised their young alone. Baby Andrewsarchus took years to grow, and during this process they were completely dependent on their mothers. It's estimated that it took approximately 8 to 10 years for a young Andrewsarchus to reach adult size. Why Andrewsarchus went extinct is still a mystery. However, there are several theories. Toward the end of the Eocene epoch, the climate began to change. The warm and humid climate gave way to a cooler and drier climate. Tropical forests began to reseed and were replaced by open grasslands. This change affected most of Andrewsarchus's prey. The number of herbivorous species decreased, and consequently the living spaces of top predators narrowed. Additionally, the emergence of new predator species increased competition. Early cat-like predators were more agile and faster. For a large and probably slow-moving creature like Andrewsarchus, adapting to the changing environment was difficult. Large body mass also meant large energy requirements. The decline in prey sources was one of the first factors to affect giant predators like Andrewsarchus. Over millions of years, large carnivores continuously evolved. Some species descended from Andrewsarchus returned to the water and eventually became fully marine animals like whales and dolphins. Others remained on land and evolved into different forms. Hippopotamuses are considered one of the last great land relatives of Andrewsarchus. However, none reached Andrewsarchus's massive size and power. Now let's use our imagination and ask this question. What if Andrewsarchus lived today? The answer to this question is both fascinating and quite disturbing. First, for such a creature to survive in the modern world, radical changes would be necessary. But let's assume for a moment that it's possible. Andrewsarchus would be an apex predator in the modern ecosystem. Lions, tigers, bears would all seem small next to it. If it lived in the African savannas, it could even threaten elephants. Of course, a full-grown elephant alone would be dangerous for an Andrewsarchus, but injured, elderly, or baby elephants would definitely become targets. If it were in South America's Amazon rainforests, it would shake the throne of jaguars and anacondas. In Southeast Asia, it would compete with Bengal tigers. In North America, it would clash with grizzly bears and wolves. Andrewsarchus's presence would completely disrupt existing predator-prey balances. Andrewsarchus's daily calorie requirement would probably be around 20 to 30 kilograms of meat. This means killing at least one large herbivore per week. Even in modern conservation areas, the presence of such a large predator wouldn't be sustainable. Even in Africa's national parks, herd numbers are limited. The presence of a group of Andrewsarchus could wipe out the antelope, zebra, and wildebeest populations in those regions. Throughout human history, there have been conflicts with large predators. Lions, tigers, and bears have attacked human communities, and humans have developed defenses against them. However, Andrewsarchus would represent a completely different threat level. With 1.8 meters of shoulder height and 1 ton of weight, Andrewsarchus could kill a human with a single bite. As for its speed, we don't know exactly, but comparing with similar-sized animals, it could reach speeds of 40 to 50 kilometers per hour over short distances. This would make it nearly impossible for a human to escape. For agricultural communities, Andrewsarchus would be a complete nightmare. Livestock would be easy targets. Cattle, sheep, horses, all could disappear in a single night. Even today, lions and tigers attack livestock and conflict with herders. And Andrewsarchus's presence would multiply this problem tenfold. Should it be protected? Of course, but this would be very difficult in practice. Even protecting big cats today involves serious challenges. Protecting Andrewsarchus would require much larger areas, many more resources, and much stricter security measures. On the other hand, a living Andrewsarchus would be an incredible opportunity for the scientific world. Studying its physiology, metabolism, and behaviors would teach us a lot about evolutionary theory. Tracking an Andrewsarchus with modern technology, observing its hunting techniques, would probably be the subject of the most popular documentaries on channels like Nat Geo and BBC. Genetic research would help us better understand how Andrewsarchus was related to whales. Perhaps we would find missing links in the evolution of marine mammals. Behavioral studies would provide unique data on the social structures, reproductive strategies, and territorial defense of large predators. Andrewsarchus living in the modern world would revolutionize safari tourism. People would come from all over the world to see this massive creature. However, this would also bring serious security risks. Safari vehicles would need to be specially reinforced, guides armed with weapons, and visitor numbers strictly controlled. Perhaps only aerial tours by helicopter would be safe. Ground observation would be nearly impossible. This would multiply tourism costs. Only the very wealthy could go on an Andrewsarchus safari. Andrewsarchus would have a legendary place in popular culture. Local communities would remember it with both fear and respect. It would probably be given divine status. Rituals would be organized. Just as lions were symbols of power in ancient societies, Andrewsarchus would gain sanctity in modern tribes. Hollywood movies, video games, comic books. Andrewsarchus would be everywhere in popular culture. Instead of movies like Jurassic Park, films like Eocene Park would be made. In horror movies, instead of vampires and zombies, there would be Andrewsarchus. In the long term, Andrewsarchus's presence would adapt to modern ecosystems. Other predators would learn to avoid it. Herbivores would be more cautious. Perhaps evolution would strengthen defense mechanisms. Antelopes would run faster, rhinos would have larger horns, elephants would behave more aggressively. But the real problem is the shrinking of Andrewsarchus's living spaces with the expansion of human civilization. Even today, wildlife corridors are shrinking every day. Cities are growing, agricultural areas are expanding, roads are being built. Finding sufficient space for a large predator like Andrewsarchus would be nearly impossible. Perhaps the most realistic scenario would be Andrewsarchus living only in a few isolated regions under special protection. Like pandas and Sumatran tigers, it would face the threat of extinction. Humans would watch it with both admiration and fear. And with each passing year, its future would become more uncertain. Today, the reason we remember Andrewsarchus is that single skull. Among those sandstorms in Mongolia, a treasure hidden for 45 million years. That bone found by Roy Chapman Andrews opened a tremendous window into our planet's past. Andrewsarchus symbolizes the power of nature and the ruthlessness of time. It was once the largest carnivorous mammal that ever lived, but today it's just a fossil. Its story reminds us, no species can remain dominant forever. Climate changes, ecosystems evolve, and life finds new forms. Today, as humanity, we are the most dominant species on our planet. We build cities, develop technology, shape nature. However, Andrewsarchus's fate is a warning to us. How we affect our environment, how we treat other species, how we fight climate change. All of these will determine not only the future of other creatures, but ours as well. Perhaps one day, millions of years from now, another intelligent species will find our fossils and ask, these humans were once so powerful, but why did they disappear? Let's hope that day never comes. And let's hope that by learning from Andrewsarchus's story, we approach all life forms on our planet with respect. Andrewsarchus is not just a fossil. It's a symbol of the power of evolution, the flow of time, and nature's cycle. Its story reminds us of the past and gives us hope for the future. Because life always finds a way. Andrewsarchus mongoliensis, once Earth's largest carnivorous mammal. Today, just a legend consisting of a single skull. But its story teaches us invaluable lessons. The power of nature, the marvel of evolution, and the ruthlessness of time. If Andrewsarchus lived today, our world would certainly be very different. Ecosystems would be wilder, humans' relationship with nature would be more cautious, and perhaps our respect for nature would be greater. But perhaps the opposite would be true. Perhaps we would bury it in history too, just as we've exterminated many other species. What do you think our world would be like if Andrewsarchus lived today? Could it live in peace with humans, or would it be quickly eliminated with modern weapons? Would you want to see this massive creature, or would you run away in fear of its existence? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. If you enjoyed this documentary, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because in upcoming episodes, we'll share the stories of many more incredible creatures that lived in history. Until we meet in the next episode with Extinct Today, stay respectful to nature.